In the name of Jesus, there is power in the name.
If you were on the choir, if you were on the usher board because you think your serving God is going to make life easy for you, you are serving God for the wrong reason. Some folk come to church thinking that the minute you join the church, all your troubles going to disappear. Your troubles just start when you join the church. And let me tell you something. In the church, you're going to meet some of the nicest folk you have ever met in your life. In the church, you're going to meet some of the meanest people.
Faith that's not tested is no faith at all. It's your enemies who force you to be a better you. It's your enemies who show you your weaknesses and force you to lean on the strength that can only come from God. Your enemies force you to get up when you'd rather lay down. Your enemies force you to run when you'd rather walk. Your enemies force you to stand up when you'd rather sit down. Your enemies force you to get up off the back pew and come on down to the altar. Your enemies are necessary.
In the name of Jesus, there is power. In the name of Jesus,
I told everybody, and I tell Mount Pisgah like I told St. Paul, if you don't support me when I'm alive, when I'm dead, don't you walk past that casket like you care about me. I declare, if you do that, I'm going to reach up and slap the I don't know what out of you. If you can't love me in life, then don't mourn me in death. But we ought to recognize that people are great right now while we got them. Turn to somebody and tell them you are a great person.
There's an army rising up. There's an army rising up to break every chain, 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 break every chain.
These are names that don't represent the best that's in us. They represent the worst that's been done to us. There's power in the names we give our children. There's power in that identity. We either live up to high expectations or we live down to no expectations. These names merely reflect and mask our self-hate.
My first 2 years were in the United States Marine Corps, Paris Island, South Carolina. I was there for 16 weeks. The first 12 weeks I was there, every day we had to snap in with a rifle. The old M1s, M14, now M16. We had to learn the different positions, standing position, kneeling position, prone position. Take the rifle apart, put the rifle together. 12 weeks before I saw a bullet. Ain't been nowhere near the fire. They wanted us to know everything there was to know about that weapon, because that was the only thing that stood between us and life and death. In fact, we had to take the weapon apart and put it back together with the lights on and in pitch black darkness. And I asked Sir, why we got to do this in the dark? This don't make no sense. He said, if you're in the middle of a firefight, in the middle of the night, and your rifle jams, you can't be talking about, can I have a light over here, please? You got to know how to take that rifle apart, get it unjammed, and put it back together. You got to know everything there is to know about that weapon. That's the only thing you got keeping you alive. Now, how many of y'all know this song? I'm a soldier In the army of the Lord, I must. Listen. This is the only army I've ever been in where y'all don't know nothing about the weapon. The enemy know more about your weapon than you.
Victory is mine. Victory is mine. It's falling. No more sickness. No more heartache. I'm falling. I hear the tide is falling. Victory is mine. Thank you, Lord. It's falling. Fall down, fall down, fall down. It's falling. Hallelujah, hallelujah, it's falling.
Down in a dry well, and they couldn't. It was a deep well, and it was dark, and that old billy goat was crying out, and finally the farmer heard him, and they couldn't see the billy goat down in the well. It was too dark. He was too far down in there, and they tried everything they could to get him out, and every once in a while that old billy goat would yell out, and they were trying to get him, but they couldn't get down in there because the hole was just too narrow, and every once in a while that old billy goat would cry out because he needed some help getting out of that hole, but finally the farmer had mercy on the old goat. You see, he decided that the best thing to do was to go ahead and bury that old goat down in the hole, because he didn't want, the goat to continue to languish and suffer down in the hole. That old billy goat was buried deep down in the ground, deep down in the earth's mantle, if you will. So the farmer began to pile dirt in the hole, trying to fill that hole up. And every time he would throw some dirt in the hole, that old billy goat would give a short cry. Every shovel of dirt that the farmer threw in the hole, it broke his heart because he loved that billy goat. But then he would shovel some dirt in the hole. It would fall on that old goat's back. The goat would shake it off and pat it under his feet. Somebody missed that. Every shovel of dirt that the farmer threw in that hole, that old goat would shake it off and pat it under his feet. Because I have to imagine in my sanctified imagination that old goat started to sing about Jacob's ladder. Every round goes higher and higher. I want you to know today that every time this old world tries to bury you, you got to shake it off and pat it under your feet, because every round goes higher and higher.
Thank you, Jesus.
The African, they'd say the phoenix came out of the fire. The Westerners, they say he descended to hell, but on the third day rose from the dead. But the black church would just say early, one Sunday morning, one Sunday morning, Jesus rose from the dead.
Now, let me just say what I've told you before. Stop saying I can't live without him. Stop saying I can't live without her. Oh, yes, you can. You can live without anybody. Only a parasite can't live without another organism. Only parasites live on other organisms. Now, look. If the moon is bright and the music is right and the mood is right, it's all right to say I can't live without you. That's okay. That's okay. That's all right.
suggest that whatever you're going through today, it's better to go through it with God than to go through it without God. In other words, I'd rather be in the furnace with God than on the outside without God.
You pay the price. You pay the price. No more pain. I've got the victory. Thank you, Jesus. Yes. I hear the chains falling. Somebody say hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Dr. Clarence Norman Sr. and his wife, his beautiful wife, the sister Ellen Norman.
Come on, get on your feet. Come on. Y'all need to sing this. Come on.